I'm a huge fan of cheap light cavalry, as some of you may know, and the cheapest light cavalry in the game is Goblin Wolf Riders, although really they're a better comparison to Hound units. They kind of straddle the line between the two in that they technically count as large, but they have 60 unit models like most, Chaos Hounds, Dire Wolves, and so on. And I like them a lot because they're only 300 points. I mean, leadership is really bad. The stats are pretty bad, and the charge bonus is not even good for, a melee cavalry. I mean, they're literally just, it says cavalry, that's it. They are expendable though. 92 speed is also fantastic. And against a target that already has low stats, like, say, some peasant archers, they can win, right? Especially with WA active. That absolutely they will. So, in this build, the Goblin meta is active. Skirmish cavalry, we've got 6 of them, 2 Spider Riders, 4 Wolf Rider Archers. One of them is detached in a separate group here, the Mangy Marauders, because they have AP. I'm going to use them slightly differently, slightly more conservative. This big, staunch line of just Mongoblins. They're going to act as kind of a big pressing threat up on a flank here. 2 Black Orcs. We've got the Queen, River Troll Hag, Skarsnik, and the Hammer of Gork. Big fan of this Arwa artillery piece. Basically like a solar engine. It's got that blinded effect. My opponent here, he's got a couple of Knights of the Realm and Questing Knights, 2 on each flank, kind of mixed. Paladin, you saw there, explosion from the Fey Enchantress, who's here to drain out all of the Orc souls, Orc and Goblin souls, for, whatever mystical purposes. Peasant Archers, Beast Slayers of Bastion in the back line, so decent infantry force. We're going to come forward here with this unit of Goblins. This, I also have a chief here, who I'm going to forget about. Goblin Big Boss on foot. Mostly brought him for the debuff, and he's going to get absolutely destroyed by Paladins, so goodbye debuff. He was also only 300 points, so not a big loss. But, right now the Wolf Riders are just chilling in the woods, just waiting for an opportunity. They are opportunistic gobos after all. In the meantime, we'll show you this big pitched engagement here. Knights trying to go uphill, which is actually a pretty big issue for them. Hills do affect speed and charge bonus, so trying to charge uphill can be a bit of an issue sometimes. I was able to kind of force advantageous engagement there, and the Wolf Rider Archers, Mangy Marauders, who I have talked about previously, the Wolf Rider Archers in general, that is, doing some nice damage to the Questing Knights there. We're going to throw a fungus on this Knights of the Realm, a relatively cheap target to throw it on. I was hesitant to do it at first, but I was like, I really want to just clean up these 2 Cav, try and just be done with them. Nice big map-wide pops. Black Orcs in melee against peasants. We'll just clean them out a little faster. Nice catch from my opponent, though. Was able to get these Questing Knights on the River Troll Hag here. Was able to rout her off earlier. Now I rear charge with the Spider Hatchlings. With that WA active, they were able to come and do a little bit of damage. Questing Knights are holding, though. They have great sustained combat stats for cavalry. But over here, these Wolf Rider Archers, kind of the giant line of skirmish cav, eventually through attrition and leadership, stacking leadership penalties, able to beat that unit of Knights of the Realm there. So looking pretty good so far. What about those other Wolf Riders, the one I was talking about at the beginning, the melee ones? The one I only brought one of, even though I'm highlighting in this video. Yeah, they're over here, along with some of their Spider and Wolf Rider Archer brethren. They're going to now be used to pressure this backline. And again, you can only take 6 skirmish calves. So basically, they're just that 1 extra unit of light cavalry to pressure here. They're going to be very key in coming back and shutting down this big line of archers while I kind of deal with the high-value threats. They, again, against a target that has just such low stats and leadership, what they can do is get a break and then chase them off, which is just excellent value train here. They're getting shot up a little bit by this other unit of peasant archers. We're going to try and charge through. The mobs actually come in here and are able to somewhat counter. Just kidding. No, they're also going to probably run away. And the Wolf Riders get through and get to this other unit of archers here. And Goblin, you guys let me know in the lore, is Goblin a character who would use a missile weapon? Like, would he literally be like a Wolf Rider Archer Lord? Because that would be really cool. Or even if he's just a Wolf Rider Lord that's actually like really good stats, maybe armor piercing damage at 92 speed. I really think that'd be super cool. I'm a big fan of the Wolf Rider units, at least. For the Greenskins, you can see the skirmish cav kind of in the background, and yeah, they're just paying dividends against these archers. Each individual archer unit is more expensive than this one unit of Wolf Rider archers, right? So just the fact they're back here kind of helping out in this big assault. Granted, of course, the Spider Riders, Wolf Rider Archers, also a big part of this, but I mean, look at this. They've even taken some damage now at this point. Granted, it wasn't all at once, which is very important. Those shock modifiers are pretty powerful, but now with a little bit of extra wah push, up to 46 melee attack and 30 weapon strength, which is actually pretty solid here. Are going to make contact with a few of these archers and start to deal with them. Wah unfortunately drops there pretty quickly, but they got a little bit of extra oomph on the charge. And it doesn't take much oomph to really deal with these peasant archers. Peasant archer is an awesome unit, definitely very squishy though. And the terrible leadership means in a situation like this, a unit that they could maybe actually beat in melee if they were to stand and fight just due to their numbers. I don't know, maybe not. It's hard to say. Well, I guess 60 versus 68 models, really, when I think about it, infantry skirmishers don't have that much more models than the Hound type units, which is one of the reasons why Wolf Riders are so good, is because, again, they're kind of a hybrid Hound-like cavalry. The one advantage that Hound units have over them, and we'll look at the comparisons in a minute, is that they do count as infantry, which means they can charge something like a spear from the front and, you know, not be subject to that charge defense against large. A lot of units also have anti-large, so you get extra damage from there. Being a cavalry unit is a little bit of a downside in that way, but in terms of mass, I think they're maybe better than Hounds. I'd have to do some testing to really see. But, you know, they still have that same high model count, which is definitely a benefit, and scales well with the Greenskins buffs if you can get, especially like a, you know, constant stream of melee attack from something like Wurzag, extra charge, and then, of course, walls, so gives you that extra attack and weapon strength. These guys can really punch above their weight class, which is very small. Cheapest mobility, and they're even cheaper than a lot of Hound units, which is what we'll kind of compare them to just a minute here. But for myself, Scarsnake doing okay, mostly just he was able to get a fungus into the Fey Enchantress there, and between that, me shutting down, you know, his entire backline, the Knights were largely done with. My opponent decided to throw in the towel there, but Black Orcs doing what they do, just kind of cleaving up a bunch of units. Gabbo's also taking charge and punching back, which is fine. Wolf Rider Archers, largely a similar value to the melee Wolf Riders, honestly, in the way I was using them there. Same thing with the Spider Riders. They're kind of all fulfilling that light attack cavalry role in that specific situation. Wolf Riders, the regular ones, aren't necessarily better than the Archers in that way. I mean, they do have better stats to begin with, but I mean, it's still not great. So, especially against like a higher stat infantry skirmisher, like a, I don't know, like an Elven Archer even, or like especially like a Dwarven skirmish unit that has heavy armor, like a Corler or Thunderer. These guys are not going to do much. But against a lighter, lower kind of stat, and like Peasant Bowmen are really the ideal, I would say, in that way. Yeah, it's a great target for them. Hammer of Gork also doing a decent job. Queen getting their summons off, and so on. I know you guys like me to look through both armies' values, so I'll go ahead and check here. A good game of my opponent, definitely. Yeah, infantry had a little bit of a hard time. The Archers were able to generate some value before I got into the chicken coop, and Knights of the Realm, one of them actually did a great job there, and yeah, the Questing Knights also kind of mixed bag. The one flank went a little bit better for him than the other flank. I was pressuring with the artillery the whole time against his Knights, actually, and yeah, just kind of had the Spider over there, and Scarsnake was not a good time for them, for sure. But anyway, just to kind of quickly finish up here, 300 points. That's awesome. That's great. It's actually really, really good for Greenskins. Cheap light cavalry swarm is something that is really good, especially against factions which may bring or depend on those kind of squishy missile units. And especially with more buffs, you know, it just scales more and more, right, with more unit models. And yeah, Wolf Riders, as a result, are awesome in that way. We'll pull up a few Hound units and also, you know, some other light cavalry. So yeah, like, for example, Chaos Hounds are more expensive, 400 points base. And they do offer very similar stats, actually. Again, the not counting as large, the infantry size, right? This thing right here for the Warhounds, in my opinion, does give them an advantage. But the Wolf Riders, basically comparable stats, right? The Warhounds a little bit higher attack, a little bit lower defense, a little bit lower weapon strength, right? More HP on the Warhounds, which is actually quite nice. That is one thing. The Goblins are extra squishy because of that, but still similar model count. It's kind of interesting. You would think a Goblin riding a wolf would have more health than... I mean, I guess it's a mutated Chaos Wolf, right? Anyway, let's not think about that too much. Yeah, they do come with a missile block chance, though, which is something that no other Hound units get. And again, 100 points cheaper than the next up. Direwolves are 200 points cheaper, which is, you know, almost a whole nother Wolf Rider at that point. So, granted, counting as undead is awesome. Causing fear, also, all of them have Vanguard, so that's kind of a side issue. But Strider, as well, is something that is quite nice. I mentioned this from the Bretonnian side, but... for the Greenskin side, these guys do not have Striders. Spider Riders do, even at 400 points, which is another advantage kind of in their favor, as like Cavalry. But they do not have Expendable, which is something that Wolf Riders do have. But the Strider, like charging up and downhill, downhill, obviously, you want that you want that modifier, and I believe you still do get it from Strider, but especially fighting uphill, yeah, it's nice to be able to ignore those terrain modifiers. Yeah, I guess kind of in conclusion, you do have this Regiment of Renown as well that causes fear, kind of gets one of the benefits of being a Hound, but also a decent bit more expensive. I mean, you still get some benefit from the Regiment of Renown price and the fear, so that's nice. They also drop the Expendable trait, though, keep that in mind. And yeah, exactly the same stats. They don't get any other stat benefit. Can be a nice little add if you need something that's even that much more effective at chasing off low leadership, kind of squishy stat targets. Like I said, Peasant Bowmen are probably the best case scenario. I would avoid taking them against Elven Skirmishers, although it could be nice just to have the extra bodies, honestly, in a mobility fight sometimes. Against Empire, honestly, to pressure like Pistoliers, also the Empire Skirmishers, I mean 14, 17, or like Crossbowmen, Handgunners, stuff like that. Huntsmen, also, you know, 16, 17, so if you need some extra mobile pressure against Empire, I would say definitely a good bet there as well. Yeah, and the Greenskins mirror, interestingly enough, they can be okay. I wouldn't say Norska, not necessarily. There's great targets there. Skaven, definitely, for a kind of cheap mobile harass. Granted, they will take damage and route to a lot of things, but they can get in there and at least disrupt your opponent's formations. And at 300 points, that can honestly be enough to pay for themselves, right? So, kind of the squishy, if you think about on paper, the factions with squishy infantry skirmishers that don't cause fear, I should say. Vampire Coast, the zombies are just a little spooky, and the low leadership interactions there, I think, is not going to make them necessarily super effective in that matchup. I would say it's definitely worth it to try and upgrade. It's something like Squig Hoppers that are immune to psychology, but anyway, that's kind of getting into the weeds. Definitely recommend Wolf Riders in that case for, you know, disrupting those infantry skirmish positions. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification every time I upload a new video. You'll be notified. Thanks again. See you next time.